Welcome to the Purpose Cycle podcast. This podcast helps you unlock the secrets to success. And welcome to season 4. Here is what we've got in store for you today.
But push and pull is a great thing that I talk about. If you want to get ahead in business, find somebody above you, whether that's a manager or a director or a mentor or even a client, and do everything possible to push them up, to move them into a bigger position, and then pull. Find somebody below you that you can mentor and coach to pull them up. Because if you push and you pull, that creates an opening for you to move into above, and it creates a backfill for you to pull somebody into your previous position, and then that way everybody benefits as well. That realization of just being self-aware, right? A good question to ask, right, John, is what do the people closest to you think of you?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Purpose Cycle podcast. My guest this week is an author, a speaker, and business owner who has lots of stories to share with us and will also give us a little insight into some simple rules for success. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Alfie Whattam. Alfie, how are you doing?
Hey, John, I'm very well. Yeah, good to be with you and good to speak to everybody today, and happy to be involved.
Thank you very much. Did I, with my northern accent, did I get the surname correct?
I'm from Yorkshire, so I've got a slightly northern accent as well, but you did. You got it correct. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Well, Alfie, first of all, would you like to just share a little bit about yourself with the listeners today?
Do you want the 60-second version or the 5-minute, the 10-minute? Which version do you want?
Let's start with a 60-second, then we can kind of delve in
Okay.
and explore from there.
Good stuff. So I'm British, and still a pretty young guy, 25 at the moment, and my background is born and raised in the UK. At a very early age, got involved in magic tricks, believe it or not. Started to get pretty good at them and became a professional magician as a kid and a teenager. Spent a couple of years touring and traveling and doing shows around the world and performing on television and at different events and that sort of thing. Whilst I was doing that, I got involved more in the business world and joined a massive FTSE 250 company, one of the biggest in the world in my sector, which is technology recruitment. That started to take off, and the magic business kind of paused to the side as the more corporate side took off. And fast forward a couple of years later, now a business leader within this company, running big teams, starting companies, training, coaching, hiring. And that's what I've spent the past couple of years doing, really. Helping people succeed and grow, and taking people that have got no knowledge of business and very fresh in what they do, training them up and making them successful and helping them make a lot of money. And in order to help me do that, I created something called Alfa, which is very much a framework on success, similar to your purpose cycle in many ways. And through Alfa, I've authored a book, which is done very well, and people around the world use that to learn the principles of Alfa. I've given talks and speeches at events and around the world as well, teaching the lessons from the book, and I enjoy doing this sort of thing as well, podcast interviews and that sort of thing. So that's the very quick version, I suppose, in terms of how I got to where I am today.
Fantastic, Alfie. And like you say, 25, so you're very, very young in this as well. It's great to have probably attributed quite a lot of experience already into the business. So what inspired you to start off with magic then? Was it the people that you were sort of, giving out performances to, or was it something more intrinsic?
With magic, well, that's more of a basic one. I mean, everyone gets a magic kit as a kid, don't they? You get the old Paul Daniels or Dynamo nowadays, but whatever it would be. And for whatever reason, I just never fell out of it and stuck with it. Started to get really good at it. Started to perform at local events and shows, and then later on at big corporate events and celebrity parties, and for prime ministers and even billionaires. And a great experience, a lot of fun, and it really taught me about running a business, about business development, about sales, which is so important, about speaking, about presenting, about just confidence. And it taught me all of these skills, which later became so important when actually doing the actual business side.
Yeah, I mean, you said like you had it as a kid, you got the magic set as a kid, and do you think that's maybe a little bit lost with our younger generation now? You're seeing a lot of the generation on phones and tablets rather than actually experimenting, because what you said there, it taught you to perform to people, it taught you to speak confidently in front of people, and maybe there are some of the skills that can make you really employable when you're older.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing, right? I think it was Dale Carnegie that said it originally. It might have been somebody else, but success is 20% about technical ability, being able to actually do that hardcore side of it. But the 80% of it is just about people skills, presenting and speaking and building relationships. And I'll pay more money to somebody that's got great relationship skills and can hold a conversation and influence and persuade and lead and direct people than I will for somebody that just does a hardcore technical job. So you're absolutely right. Kids nowadays, they are more kind of pushed down that STEM path, and that is so important. We need that, but at the same time, we can't lose the other side of the coin as well, which is how to persuade, how to influence, and how to lead.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the bit where you said about how you really like to pick up people who may not have much experience in this area and really develop them within your company, and you kind of make diamonds out of the rough in a way. So is that something that you're looking for? You're searching for people who are coachable?
I'm always looking to hire and recruit and bring people onto to my team and to my business. And if like people are looking for for a
Mm.
new job, we've got offices all across the UK. Then just drop me a message on LinkedIn or something like that. And but yeah, always people that are fresh and keen to learn is the main thing, really, because at the end of the day, you can be highly experienced, you can be great at what you do, but if you're not willing to learn, if you've got a closed mindset and you're not willing to take in new bits of information and apply that to make your life better, then you're not going to get anywhere, right? You need to be a complete open book, always learning. I mean, this year I'll personally spend thousands on coaching programs, on learning like myself to get a better me. I mean, when it comes to business or anything in life, like you can invest in the technology, which is important. You can invest in the marketing, that's so critical. But the number one thing you need to invest in, right, is the people. And from a personal, selfish perspective, invest in yourself, because if you can be, do, and have more, then that will allow you to allow others within your inner circle to become more and achieve more as well.
Absolutely. And like you say, environment dictates results. Having that environment around you, having those people around you to grow and grow together will ultimately bring a lot of success, Alfie. So I completely agree with you there. And what we're going to do now, we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning of your journey and to the aspiration phase. So the aspiration phase is the beginning of the purpose cycle. And it's kind of those influences that spark that curiosity. Many people get various aspirations as they go through life. So their aspirations may change. But what would you say would be the key influences to yourself when you were younger? Was you looking at particular business owners and thinking, I'd like to be that someday? Or was it maybe more of a kind of picture? Because a lot of us see cars, we see holidays, we see watches, and we think, I'd like that lifestyle. What were the key influences that triggered your interest in business?
I grew up your typical middle class kind of English lifestyle. We certainly weren't poor. We had money, and parents did a you know amazing job as parents to give me a happy and great upbringing, but certainly wasn't rich as well, and that was pretty clear from day one. Um, I lived, not too far away from some people that pretty much were wealthy and were doing very well in life. So it was always being kind of that outsider from day one, and seeing them and wanting that. And it wasn't just in terms of the lifestyle. I mean, that's fun. Money is great. You can buy houses and cars and all kinds of fun toys, and that part's cool. But for me, it's more about the more that you um, become, that the more that you can do, the more that you can share, the more that you can give. And if you get one life, like, I don't know about you, John, I don't want to waste it. I don't want to look back on my deathbed and think, oh damn it, what if I did this, what if I tried that instead. So the aspiration part was more about just not not being afraid to die without achieving what I wanted to achieve and not having regrets. But there's certainly people along the way, whether that's managers or directors or insanely talented people from Elon Musk to Steve Jobs. I mean, whenever I think I'm doing all right, I take a look at those people and I panic and go, all right, there's still a lot more to do, right? So, um, you know, bringing it back to the purpose cycle, you've got a great framework there, and the aspiration part is absolutely critical if people want to achieve success in life, and having role models and people to aspire to become, that's what's going to lead you down the path when it gets hard in particular.
Yeah, like you said about role models, having those key models in your life is really important because you don't want that toxic aspiration. A lot of young people nowadays with social media, they'll see the materialistic side, like we said before, cars, watches, holidays. And that's great because that's what you see from the external side. But once you look a bit deeper, you see, someone's maybe hired the car for the day and just took a snap for Instagram. People are going on holidays they can't afford. And it's very much behind the mask. So what age did you kind of realize those internal values that you just discussed right there about wanting to be a best version of yourself?
Like I got into the magic side pretty young, right? So my biggest thing when I was, I did Britain's Got Talent when I was 15, and did quite well on then that, and then that led to the TV show, and when it comes to magic and a few other things, and there's no such thing as an overnight success, right? It takes years and years of work to get to that. So I'd probably been grinding for that type of opportunity since I was like 11, 12, which sounds crazy, but it's the truth. I'd always been that way, and it's an interesting question, right? Are people born more driven than others? Are we? Is it the animal kingdom? Are some people just, silverback gorillas, and some people just don't care? Maybe it's more, environment, like you said, and you surround yourself by successful people, and that will inspire and push you to become successful, and that's definitely true as well. But I never really had that growing up, so I had to find books of people to, watch videos to basically surround myself with imaginary successful people that they didn't know me, but I knew them. I knew everything about them, and that became my group, basically. So it's probably a mixture, right, between nature and nurture, and who knows what the balance is. But you can't control the nature part. That's not something that you can go back and change the past. So the only thing that you can control is the nurture part, and making sure that you set yourself up with an environment that is going to guarantee that you be successful, or get as close to the guarantee as possible. And that basically just means that the type of information that you consume, whether that's books or audio or video or whatever, is aligned to your goals and where you want to go, because that's what will inspire and give you the knowledge that you need to get to the direction.
Yeah, indeed, Alfie. And I must say, obviously, 14, 15 years ago, books will have probably been your main source of inspiration, right? You'll have probably
Sure.
digested quite a lot of that. Nowadays, I see there's so much. Yes, there's a lot of junk on TikTok and Instagram, but I see there's a lot of value as well. There's
Yeah.
a lot of podcasts on there. There's a lot of snippets. I always on my timeline, it seems to be Jordan Peterson comes up, Simon Sinek comes up. And if you kind of ingest that information and you take an interest in that, the phone will probably do a little bit of the work for you. It'll send these videos your way. So it becomes a little bit easier for people now to get onto that. And it's never too late to really invest in yourself and take on that information, right?
Yep. I mean, information changes situations. That's one of the best ways of saying it. If you don't know what good looks like, then you can be the best pilot in the world, but if you don't have a destination to go to, you'll just fly around without direction and eventually run out of fuel and crash into the ocean or something. You need to know where you're going, and the way to do that is to find people in your field that have already achieved amazing results, and set that as the North Star. And then it's just about figuring out the game plan. How did they do it? I love the idea of modeling and replicating success, because success leaves clues. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to find out what works well, what's been done before, and then can you replicate that? And I'm not saying copy and paste everything. Nobody likes a copycat or an imitation, but start to follow the science of success, in terms of what works, and then develop your own style around that, so that you're unique and original, rather than just being a clone of everybody else.
Absolutely, yeah. The innovation side of things really does intrigue me, especially when you look at companies such as Uber and Airbnb, who have taken the models from things that they've seen and they've kind of tailored it to their own business model. It's been such an intriguing thing to follow. We're going to move on now to the realization phase, and this is the second phase of the purpose cycle. So after we've had that lovely vision of becoming rich and wealthy and having the lifestyle that we want and being happy and fulfilled in ourselves by doing something that we love to do every day, there's kind of a brick wall that we can hit sometimes. It's the realization phase, because there's many different facets to this phase, Alfie, and one of which is the realization of self and having those difficult conversations with yourself, becoming comfortable with failure and what comes with that. Have you ever had to have any kind of difficult awakenings, realizations of yourself? Have you had to really think, right, I need to change the game plan here? Or has it maybe been more directed at a realization of other people around you and changing your circle?
Every day, right? Nobody's perfect, and the moment that you try to convince yourself that you are, it ain't a good recipe. Like that,
Mm.
that can have some bad effects. I mean, we're recording this on the 4th of January, right? So we just had 2022 come into play, and as soon as that countdown was going on, I was celebrating, but also, thinking of all the things that I had planned to do 2021 that didn't quite happen, and thinking, right, right, that's 2022, that's got to happen. Here's a bunch of other things as well, right? So that realization of just being self-aware, right? I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time, and is that some of his key principles are, he talks about hustle all the time. That's so important. He talks about gratitude. That's so key to be happy. But self-awareness, I heard him say once, is perhaps the most important value and principle to have, because if you don't, like, a really good question to ask, right, John, is what do the people closest to you think of you? Like, what's their opinion of you? If you're working in a business environment, what does your manager think about you? Ask them the question. What do you think about me? What am I doing good? What am I doing that I should stop doing? What am I not doing which I should start doing? These types of questions will allow you to what was the principle that you called it a second ago, John, on the
The
purpose?
realization.
Yeah, realization. It's a very good way of summarizing it, right? Oftentimes we don't realize what we need to change until it's too late. But one of the best ways of finding out and fixing that before it's too late is just asking people, not being afraid to go, look, I'm gonna permission to enter the danger zone. Can I speak honestly with you for a second? And yeah, of course, Alfie. What's happening? What am I doing that's working well? What's good? Okay, brilliant. Get the conversation going easy. Okay, flip that. Well, what's one thing? If you could wave a magic wand, John, and change one thing about me, what would that be right now? If you ask powerful questions like that, you'll realize what you need to do and change and work on. And that's a good way
Wow.
to do that part of the purpose cycle, right?
Yeah, and it must be quite intimidating at first, right? Because you're putting yourself out there, you become really vulnerable.
Yeah,
So how do you kind of develop the empathy and that relationship with somebody to be completely vulnerable with them? Because a lot of people see the boss as their boss and that they don't cross that line of friendliness, but they have to give a part of themselves ready to, to not come under attack, because that's taking it personally, but they'll probably feel that anticipation, right? They'll feel this
sure.
is going to go bad because they always think it's going to be worse. It's going to be. How do you kind of get into that mindset?
Well, you should ask them, even though it's scary. You should ask them, because if you ask your best friend, they're gonna not give you a good answer. And also, you want to ask people that are doing better than you, because they can give you actual advice. I'm not going to ask a friend of mine who was not at the same level of as I am at the moment, because that advice is not going to, it's going to drag you down, not bring you up. You want to find people like your boss and people that are doing better than you are, because they can
Mm.
give you really constructive feedback, and it is going to be scary. It's you're going to have to you know put yourself out of your comfort zone, but that's where growth happens. You don't grow in your comfort zone. You grow when you ask really uncomfortable questions, and you sit and you don't listen to reply. You listen to understand, and you listen with two ears, one mouth, and you take it on board, and you sit and you think about it. And you might not agree with all of it, but in 6 months you might go, they were right. Damn it.
Mm.
I should have listened earlier. I mean, it's just about doing it. It's not about overthinking or analyzing. It's just about putting yourself out there, seeing what they have to say, and taking it on board. And if you ask 10 people, you're going to have a completely different understanding of who you need to be, as opposed to who you think you currently are.
Yeah, and I imagine that if there's a common theme amongst those 10 people, there's some truth in it, right? And I
Of
was
course.
listening to Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The
Yeah.
Diary of a CEO, and I think it was his episode with Liam Payne, I believe it was, and he said that when things hurt us like that, it's usually because there is some truth in it, and that's why it sort of hits the core. So having to have that relationship of being able to deal with that and acknowledge that and move on is a huge part of realization,
Yeah.
and being reflective. But when you mentioned there about having people around you who are kind of greater than you in terms of their success and their journey, mentoring is such an important aspect, which I believe is probably more commonplace in the USA than the UK. It's maybe, I don't know, a bit of a British value to have a kind of, yeah, stiff upper lip, we'll do it on our own kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why do you think mentoring is really important?
For me, you can compress decades of wisdom into days, if not hours of knowledge, right? If you want to, learn how to do something, where it's, you know, golf, you could go and hit the ball a million times, or you could hire a coach who that's what they do, and they can teach you how to do it step by step, and in a couple of hours you're up and running. Maybe a bad example, it takes a little bit longer with that game, but anything in life, for the most part, you can figure it out yourself. You can try and fail, or you can find somebody that's already gone through all of that, and he'll just teach you what works. And if you trust them, if they've got a good background, if they're trustworthy, if they've got a clear success story, and you buy into that and you believe that, then that's going to give you the shortcut that you need to succeed. And that's what I did in my business career. When I started, I found the top salespeople within my company. I sat down with them. I said, look, you know everything, I know nothing. Teach me how to do what you do. And then they laid it out on a page, single piece of paper. Then I did that, and lo and behold, it worked. I very, very quickly got to their level. And then when I got into management and leadership, I asked the really successful managers and leaders around me, okay, I know nothing, you know everything, right? Teach me what you know. And then applied their lessons, and the same results. And that's what I'm trying to do, trying to find people that are doing better than me, and replicate their strategies. But you can't be afraid to get a mentor. And saying that you're British is not an excuse. You just need to,
Yeah,
to suck it up, right, John?
yeah,
Um, and realize that you don't know everything, and no matter how great you are, you're not going to know everything. And the most successful people that I know, they spend thousands of pounds, if not tens, if not hundreds, every single year on coaches. On Look at any athlete in the world, they've got a trainer, they've got a coach, they've got somebody pushing them to be better. And that's one of my goals for this year, to move away from just having one or two coaches. But I want somebody for my fitness. I want, I've got a couple in business. I want to have someone for relationships. I want to have somebody for spirituality. I want to have coaches for everything, people that are doing better than me, that I can take their advice on board, and help get myself to the next level in each of the key areas of life.
wow, yeah, and I suppose pride is quite a big thing to sort of talk about there, because pride is kind of like the stumbling block for many people. Like, I can do it by myself. Like we said before, there is no excuse. You might just say, well, it's not a part of our culture, but really it's about, again, like we were mentioned about the boss, being vulnerable, being able to go up to somebody and say, look, it's in your hands. And I love that way that you did it again. When you got to leadership, you went, right, you know everything, I know nothing, let's go again. And you repeated that cycle. And that's kind of like the element of the show. It's all about starting again and going through cycles, and realizing that you are to go through the levels in your life, or else you'll just stay on the same plane, right? I always see it as a kind of like a video game where you progress to the next level, and it always gets progressively harder, because that's what life is, and that's what makes video games so fun, and that's what makes life so fun, right? So let's talk about the initiation stage. And this is the third stage of the purpose cycle. And for many, this is the point where they either go one way back to their average lives, or they go the other way and they progress because they have to take that first step. So for you, Alfie, what was that first step? What did it look like, and how did it feel?
That's a tricky one, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, the first step is, it depends on what project you're working on at each given time, and each project has got its own set of steps to get there. I mean, the journey of 1,000 miles, right? It begins with a
Yeah,
single step, and
exactly.
I mean, the biggest thing I'd say when it comes to this, right, is you can't overanalyze everything too much. I see people, and reading is so important. I read a book every week or so, and that's critical, right? But there comes a point where how many books do you need? I mean, you got to act. You got to take. You got to. How many gurus do you have to listen to? Eventually, you just got to get out there. Do you want to be sitting in the football stands, or do you want to be down there, kicking the ball and
Mm.
playing the game? And eventually you just got to do it. I mean, when it comes to getting involved, the first step, really is the research and the planning and the learning. But the first actual step is just not being afraid to act and just giving it a go. And you're probably going to mess it up. Like I've made every mistake in the world and then some. And but you pick yourself up, you learn from it, and you go again. But if you're afraid to fail, if you don't get involved in the first place, then you'll never get there. So it's just about, like you say, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there. This might work, it might not work, but if it doesn't work, then so what? I try again. You change your strategy and you go at it. But if you sit there, just analyzing everything, then nothing's going to
Yeah.
happen. You're just gonna sit there a theorist, not an action taker.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had a few interviews myself about the book that I've written, and I said that the shortest chapter would have been the initiation stage, because I could have summed it up in 2 words: just start, and that could have been the whole chapter done. And that's because it's that simple. But I kind of felt like I had to explain to everybody, like you said there, how you've articulated it really well. You're probably going to mess it up. My first podcast was terrible, and I'm going to listen to the way I'm asking questions now in 10 years and think, why am I speaking like this? Why am I asking it like this? You just constantly are going to criticize yourself, because hopefully in 10 years time you're going to be in a lot better place than you are now. So having that fear of failure is what's really stumbled many people. But for me, it was kind of a fear of remaining ordinary, right? Kind of, I suppose, going back to you and where you grew up, that fear of, yes, you had a nice upbringing, but that fear of staying where you are in your comfort zone, remaining average. So how did you kind of, I don't know, outweigh the fear of failure with the other fear? Really, did it kind of push you on?
Well, the fear of being average was way scarier than the fear of doing it. And I don't know why, if that's something that, once again, that you're born with, or that's just an environmental thing. But
Mm.
but I was scared out of my mind of staying in the same place, of not going anywhere, doing anything, becoming anything, and that fueled the hell out of me, right? And that still continues to do so. Part of the danger of getting a little bit of success is that you you get complacent. Most of the time, you put your feet back and you think, great, I've done it. But in life, if you either push and move forwards, or you move backwards, and staying where you are is the same as moving backwards, because the rest of the world around you is moving forward. So if you're staying where you are and not continuing to push and drive, then naturally you're going to be left behind. So I mean, for me, the fear was bigger on the other side, as opposed to doing it, thankfully. But obviously not everyone has it that way set up. So
Yeah.
I just say, just as you said, just do it. Just start, because that's the only way that you'll ever really break through that fear. And it's never really going to go away, but it definitely diminishes the more that you do something.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy looking at the statistics. I teach primary school for my day job, as it were, and
Sure.
one of my old schools that I used to teach at, it was crazy, the statistics of the area, the demographic of children that came to our school. There was the parents, the grandparents, the great grandparents, all grew up and lived in the same area, because there wasn't the aspiration there to move out and break out from that chain. And breaking the chain is such a critical. It's not kind of a mark or a stamp against your upbringing or your friends, or it's nothing ever personal. It's about, well, it is personal to you. It's your personal development, I suppose. So it is crazy how some people are in that mindset. I'm gonna go out and achieve great things, and some people think, well, what if it goes wrong? What if it does? And
Yeah.
I suppose what comes with the fear of remaining average then, is there any imposter syndrome linked with that, Alfie? Do you ever suffer from the imposter syndrome, or did you begin to and you've kind of got out of that now?
Every day. I think everybody does. I think if you say that you don't, you're probably lying. I mean, until you get to Elon Musk's level, you probably, I mean, he probably still has components of it, but sometimes I think, what am I doing? How did I pull this off? And why are people listening to me? And then sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but um, there's always going to be imposter syndrome. Everyone. But when you become an adult, right, you realize that everyone's pretending to a degree. Nobody really knows what they're doing, and even when it comes to most very successful people in life, and certainly in my industry in business, they often come from a sales background or a marketing background. They're very good at speaking and consulting and connecting with people, and they don't necessarily come from like I mentioned earlier, more kind of hardcore technical professions. And um, certainly in my line of work, the imposter syndrome is extreme with some of the people that you speak to, and they don't have a clue about half of the people they lead, and the systems they manage, and the processes involved, but they often don't have to, because they're great at building relationships with people that know how to do that for them, and then it becomes scalable, and they can build a business around people that they know, they like, and they trust. If you can get that relationship piece down, then the rest of it is very, very simple, because you just have to find great people who you can leave alone and give them the flexibility and the freedom to to help you become successful whilst they achieve success as well. And that's why it's so important to find a great boss in terms of that vulnerability piece that we mentioned earlier. If you find somebody that's against you, then you got to leave. You got to find a boss that wants you to succeed. And ideally, you want to be in a situation where the more successful you become at work, the more successful your boss will become as well. Push and pull is a great thing that I talk about. If you want to get ahead in business, find somebody above you, whether that's a manager or a director or a mentor or even a client, and do everything possible to push them up, to move them into a bigger position, and then find somebody below you that you can mentor and coach to pull them up. Because if you push and you pull, that creates an opening for you to move into above, and it creates a backfill for you to pull somebody into your previous position, and then that way everybody benefits as well.
Wow, what a fantastic answer, Alfie. Honestly, it started off with me saying in my head, I'm really glad that you said that you yourself suffer from imposter syndrome still, because I honestly thought it was just me. So that's good. And
Everybody does, yeah.
yeah, and talking about, obviously, yeah, everyone's just pretending. I mean, I remember one of my very first mentors in teaching saying to me, look, you'll never be ready for the next step. As he was moving on to become a head teacher, I knew that there was the path I wanted to follow someday, and you'll never be ready, but you've just got to go for it. And that was the last thing he said to me before he moved on to his role. And I've reconnected with him a couple of times because I thought, wow, like it's so powerful. So having those kind of, like you said, the push, but I never really thought about the pull before. So it's a great sort of thought-provoking comment there, and I'm sure a lot of listeners will agree. Having that pull and being able to mentor someone will really help them. So maybe something for them this year to look into and try and apply to their work as well.
Yeah, well, leader it's just a title. It doesn't mean anything. Elon Musk said this the other day, in that the term CEO means absolutely nothing. It really doesn't. It's more about what you do rather than what label you slap on your LinkedIn page. And you can be a junior person at a company, and you can still lead people. You just have to have an idea, have something that you can teach, and help people on the journey. And if you help them, they'll help you. If they don't, then find other people that will help you. But if you can build that inner circle, then that's potentially the most important thing.
Indeed, absolutely. And you said about having the humility there, and being open and self-aware. It really does help you progress through these stages in life. And we're going to now move on to the creation stage. And I want to start off with a quote from Denzel Washington. He said, "Without commitment, you'll never start, and without consistency, you'll never finish." So the creation phase is all about that consistency, the day in, day out, bettering yourself. You've already made that commitment to initiate the action. You've started that journey. You've made the leap of faith. You've gone public with your company. People, you might feel those whispers around you. Is he ready for this? Can they do that? How do you progress through the creation phase? How do you keep that day-to-day grind all the way up to success?
This for me is all about habits, right? And everything starts with an idea, or even before an idea. It starts from where you get your ideas from, because you might think that you're creating these ideas, but believe me, they're coming to you from the information that you absorb, and it's your creativity is just connecting different dots together, really. So, you know, how many books have you read this year? What books are you reading? How are you spending your time? What do you do when you get home each day? Are you watching pointless television, or are you listening to a great podcast like this that will help you advance in life? And getting those ideas from people that are, once again, doing better than you are in terms of the position in where you want to go, um, will allow you to start forming those ideas, right? Once you've got an idea is great, but without action, it's an idea, right? So you gotta take action. You gotta implement it. So let's look at something super basic, right? Going to the gym, because that's an easy one to talk about, right? Everyone's got this idea in their mind right now. 2022, I'm gonna start working out, whether that's the gym or if it's home exercise or running, whatever it is, right? But doing it once is not going to lead to a six pack, but doing that consistently day in day out, that's what's going to get results, and the consistency piece in there, right? And the commitment and the creation phase. So what the creation phase really is about is it's about building subconscious routines. But the only way to do that is to take that idea and act upon it for a number of days in a row. And some people say it's 21, some people say it's closer to 30. But if you do something consistently, if you went to the gym every single day for 30 days in a row without any, gym's a little bit different, you need rest days and that sort of thing, but if you did something on a daily basis and tried to build that habit, eventually you get to the point where you don't have to think about doing it anymore, and it's unconscious. And when you wake up, your body just does it. Your body does certain things. Your body grabs a water instead of a Coke, and it does that because you did that on a daily basis to the point where it became subconscious. And the mission in life, really, if you want to achieve greatness, is to build a collection of amazing habits and routines that become subconscious. You can do one at a time. Doing quite a few at the same time is quite a lot for anybody to really master. So just one or two at a time is fine. And that's how you create, the creation phase, the life that you want, by building these bricks day by day. And then eventually you've got a wall, but you can't have that wall overnight. You've got to build those bricks. And yes, people will whisper, John. They're gonna talk. They're gonna try and knock you down, because all they see is a brick. But after 6 months, a year, when you've got a wall, that's when the shoes on the other foot, per se.
Yeah, I love the analogies as well, Alfie. Honestly, it helps really build that picture in the listeners' minds, building that wall every single day, and those creations, that creating of your future self, designing the you that you want to become, will lead to fruition. And fruition is always a phase that I like to talk about, because quite often we rarely kind of give ourselves that pat on the back and celebrate our small wins. And it's not a very long stage, because shortly after fruition, we kind of hit that lull of, right, what next? So how important is it to celebrate those small wins that we accumulate every single day?
Oh, it's essential, right? You need to have some kind of ritual for enjoying life. I mean, if you don't, you've got to celebrate success. If you don't, then you don't know what good looks like, because you need to have an attached win to it. And that's different for different people, right? And everyone's got their own way of being happy and enjoying life. But whatever that is, it is for you. You've got to attach that to the milestones. And because I've run into this problem loads of times, where let's say you do a big deal at work, or you sign this client, or something amazing happens, but it just becomes routine, and you stop celebrating it. That's when you start losing the motivation, because you disassociate happiness from success. That needs to be linked and attached. I mean, some of the most successful people I know are really, really happy, but also some of the most successful people I know are miserable, and that's because they've stopped associating success with freedom and having that thrill and excitement, right? So
Mm.
it's so important to keep the two connected, because that makes life so much easier. You don't have to start chasing different rabbits. You can just link it all to one common purpose and vision, and go after that together.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really important to kind of show that gratitude, practice gratitude every single day, get off that hamster wheel, and make sure that you are focusing on the wins that you accumulate. And you deserve it from that creation phase, from having those habits, building those habits. You deserve the reward, and that kind of builds that momentum. So we talk about momentum, Alfie, and we talk about then kicking forward into another purpose cycle. So in terms of like lessons learned, and the wins that you get, what's the most important thing about kind of finishing one journey, finishing one business or element of your life that you're trying to build before then kind of catapulting into a new phase of your life?
Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. He says that there's a science of success, right? The science of achievement, and success leaves clues. We know what we need to do in order to get to where we want to go, right? And you outlined that in your book. I've done that in my book. I mean, people can find that, but the thing that people miss is the art of fulfillment, the art of happiness, and that's the other missing piece of the recipe. And for me, I get that through my family, my wife, through meditation, through gratitude lists, for all these really important daily consistent habits, which if I don't do, I fall apart. I need that routine in my life in order to um, to be able to operate at my peak state and my peak levels each day. And the minute I just over Christmas, just taking a couple of days off doing those things, and everything falls apart. So it's so important to keep that consistency up. But I think you need both. You need the science of achievement, the science of success, but you need the art of fulfillment. You need to be happy. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly, Alfie. So that's a great way to wrap up the purpose cycle. What we're going to do now is just talk about a few projects that you have. Also, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that I ask every listener. I'm going
Sure.
to put you on the spot with one of the questions, so I'll prep you with it now to think about it. I'm going to ask you about your three values in life, your three main ones, very shortly. But before we get into that, I'd like to talk to us a little bit about Alpha Success.
Okay. So it came about as an accident, really. I was hiring people for my team, training them, coaching them, and I moved into a bigger role where I was responsible for people in different teams and offices where I've never met them. They're spread across the country, and I needed a way to help train people without being there. So I wrote the book, and I wrote Trust in Alpha: 7 Simple Rules for Success, and I took everything that I'd learned from my mentors and compressed it into short book that anybody can read. And within a couple of hours, they have all the knowledge and skills that they need to go out there and achieve what they want to achieve, right? So it all started with a book that did well. I did not expect it to do well. I wrote it for my staff, and then that started to be being read by other people around the world, and that led to an ebook and an audio book, and it's in Waterstones and in Walmart in the States and all of those good places. And from there, I then took that and started doing speeches at events, business conferences. A lot of it, being this sort of thing on podcasts, and that's sort of the future of events, really. Podcasts and being able to listen whenever you want rather than going there in person. And then that tied heavily into different coaching, courses I'd made, and one-on-one coaching, and that sort of program, and that sort of thing. So. Um, Alpha is spelled ALFA, and it's a combination of my name, Alfie, and the idea of being an alpha, as in the greatest, the most successful, and the most evolved. And essentially, it's a framework. It's a set of simple principles and science-based beliefs and systems, which if you follow, basically offers you a step-by-step system to becoming successful in whatever you want to do. And when I say success, I don't just mean making money. I mean that's important, and that's part of it. Having money helps life a lot, but also it's about relationships. That's perhaps the most important thing, or health, or well-being, or mental attitude, or spirituality, whatever is important to you, and however you define success. Alpha's plan is to help you get there, and it's worked for thousands of people around the world that have gone through the training, and it works. And I'd encourage people to give it a go themselves as well.
Yes, absolutely, and you can find that on Amazon as well. Is that correct? You
Yeah,
said.
it's every bookstore that you can think of, it Trust in Alpha will be on there. Or if it's not on there, then contact them and ask them to start selling it.
Indeed, absolutely. Right, well, we'll definitely be checking that out. And what we want to ask you now, Alfie, is if there's 3 values in life you may obviously live by more, but if you had to narrow it down to the 3 most important values that you have to carry around with you and you like to instill into people around you, what are those 3 values?
3, that's a tough one, isn't it? I think gratitude is so important. Without that, then you lose perspective. Being the hardest working person in the room, certainly not the smartest. I almost want to be the dumbest person in the room so I can learn from everybody around me. But being the hardest working person in the room, getting in first, staying, being the last to leave, critical. So gratitude, hustle, and I think integrity is so important. Just doing what you're going to say. If I and you said a moment ago, John, about making your business public, right? Whatever you're doing, if you make it public and if you talk to your friends and colleagues about it, that's going to put the pressure on you to achieve it. And if you don't, then are you a hypocrite? Does that make you somebody that doesn't do what you say that you're going to do? For me, that's a non-negotiable. I'm not gonna say something and then not follow that up. I don't know why. Maybe I feel embarrassed. Maybe I feel humiliated. But if I say something, I'm gonna do everything possible to get there. And so integrity. Maybe that's not the right word, but I think you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hustle, gratitude. Without basic pillars like that in life, then to me that's what I value and that's what's important to me.
Absolutely, yeah. And touching on your last point of integrity there, I often quite like to tell people and vocalize what it is that I'm planning to do, because I only really do that if I'm feeling particularly scared about a project. I'm going to say, look, I'm a bit worried about how this is going to go because I'm no expert in it, but I'm going to start writing a book, and I've told people, so then I have to do it. I have to write the book, and
Yeah.
it's a great way to push yourself over the line. It's kind of holding yourself to account, because people will check in and go, "Oh, how's that book going along?" And if you're there going, "Well, I kind of threw it in the bin 6 months ago," you're going to look pretty silly. So I think it's a great way to go. And yeah, I really like the way you said, you want to be the dumbest person in the room. It's something that, again, I've not really considered before. You want to, I always aspire to be the smartest person in the room. I want to learn a lot, but actually you're going to learn a lot more by surrounding yourself with people who are incredibly intelligent and that you can learn from as well. So that's brilliant. Thank you, Alfie. So 2 more questions before we wrap up this episode. First of all, how can listeners make 2022 their best year yet?
Ooh, I think that starts by reading the purpose cycle, doesn't it, John? Well, that would be a good place to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it just go back to the basics. Set a very small number of very clear, smart goals for yourself this year, and make them non-negotiable. So many times you set a New Year's resolution, but it's I want to lose weight. Okay, how much weight do you want to lose? Okay, by what time frame? Okay, how are you going to do it? How many days a week are you going to go to the gym? Okay, what's your diet going to look like? So break down these ideas into very specific long-term goals, short-term goals, have purpose, have vision, set a vision board, have affirmations, all of these powerful tools, right? You want to be using as many of them as possible to get to where you need to be. But I mean, this is the sort of question that you could speak for hours about. I'm sure we both could, right? But for me, you can't score if you don't know where the goal is. So a good place to start would be to write down some goals. Write them down daily, commit to them. If you obsess, if you commit over something, then you're probably going to do everything that you can do to follow through and make it happen.
Absolutely, Alfie. Fantastic answer yet again, and thank you very much for dropping in the purpose cycle as well there. Final question, Alfie, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn and following your journey. Where can our listeners find you?
Pretty much any social media site you can, anything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I've got hundreds of videos on YouTube teaching everything about Alpha. If you search my name, you'll find me on there. Pretty active on Twitter, tens of thousands of followers on there. all of the platforms really. Just type in my name, and I think it's a different @ or connection thing on each of them really. But to type in my name and you'll find me, and drop me a message. I try to reply to pretty much everybody. So if it's not public, it'll be on DMs. But drop me a message, and always keen to connect.
Fantastic. Everybody, I strongly recommend you go and follow Alfie. I mean, from this 1 hour conversation, little under an hour, I've gained a lot of value, and I hope that all of you have gained so much value from this episode as well. Thank you very much, Alfie, for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, John. And thanks for everybody for watching.
Thank you very much, and all the best. I'll see you all next week. A huge thank you to Alfie there for offering some amazing insights into business, leadership, and also personal development. And speaking of personal development, you can access the book, The Purpose Cycle, Unlock the Secrets to Success, for only 99 pence as an ebook until the end of January 2022. And don't worry if you've missed that deadline already, the book, the paperback version, is in the Amazon store now as well as my website, thepurposecycle.com. Go and check it out and unlock the secrets to success.